This podcast is sponsored by the Tollington Arms on Hornsey Road, a bubbly pub with a Thai kitchen home to thousands of Arsenal fans every season. Open daily from noon.
Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble special. I'm your host Giles, and joining me is my podcast wife Amanda. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just watching the back end of a football game, which I won't mention because it'll give away when we're doing this. So it's just a football match I'm watching.
Is it still 2-0?
Yeah, to some non-league team. It's a more non-league team. And if you don't recognise the voice in the background, that is Sky Sports' very own Geoff Shreeves. Good evening, Geoff. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Lovely to be invited on.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed, sir. You were invited on by Amanda. Amanda, how did you get hold of this fella? Just tell us the background story about this.
What was it, about 18 months ago that we met in the Tollington for John Cross's signing, wasn't it? Book signing.
That's right. I went along with Alan Smith.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
I interviewed Alan Smith that night.
I know Crossy.
I interviewed Alan Smith that night as well, and we met and we chatted about Arsene Wenger, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, I seem to remember the conversation was, should he stay, should he go, what's happening with Arsenal? And that was 18 months ago, and I think the conversation was about 2 years old at that point.
Yeah. Some would say longer. Some would say actually longer, So.
I'm not convinced we're any further forward, are we?
No, absolutely not. So so that's the background. And so you're obviously you were down at the front and John Cross, and I really want to start by asking you, we've started with Wenger. I mean, how many times have you interviewed Arsene Wenger in your career?
Oh my word. Well into the hundreds, probably not 1,000, but well into the hundreds.
Do you remember your first interview with him?
No, I can't remember the first one specifically. I don't know. There was a period in the 90s when Arsenal were in their old training ground, and which is now Watford's training ground. The training ground burnt down. So they had to change temporarily at a hotel in St Albans, Sopwell House. So we always used to do the interviews at Sopwell House. And we did so many features with likes of Ray Parlour, Nigel Winterburn, Ian Wright, etc., playing snooker and stuff like that. And that's when we first really got to know Arsene. And he was terrific. He was absolutely terrific. I've got to say, he's still one of the best interviewees, because he always gives you an answer. Now, he might be evasive. He might say, I don't want to answer that. But in my experience, I'm not aware that he's ever lied when asked a question, which you can't say about all managers. He doesn't lie.
Does he, sorry, Giles, does he sort of, when you say he doesn't lie, does he sort of bend the truth like a politician a little bit? Or spin it?
Yeah, what you have to remember is that when we're, as you say, a bit like a politician, sometimes there's information they can't give because it would do harm to the team, to the group, to the club. But he won't out and out lie about the situation, in my experience. Now, I'm sure someone off the back of this will say, yeah, what about when he said this? What about when he said that? But I would say over a 2-decade period, which is a quite remarkable length of time, he's always been pretty straight up. I still enjoy listening to him. He's terrific conversation. The other week we did an interview and we were waiting for something like the camera or something like that. And we had quite a long conversation about rugby, and he was really knowledgeable on rugby. He's a genuinely fascinating guy who I think has done a huge amount for the game in this country. And in particular, for us. Oh, here he comes.
Here he comes.
Come on. Here he comes. He's come for a lie down. Come on, boy.
Oh, bless him.
Come on, boy. There he is.
Oh, gorgeous dog. What a gorgeous dog.
What's his name, by the way? It's not Arsene, is it, or something?
No. His name's Dennis.
Dennis. Oh, that Burkamp. Good man.
Same name.
Yes, indeed. So you say that he's one of your favourite interviewees. He always gives a good answer, and you talk about. I hear a lot of people that I've interviewed and say that he really is knowledgeable about life, not just about Arsenal or football. Does he come across as quite unique in that aspect? I mean, or is someone like Alex? Is he sort of like a contemporary of Alex Ferguson in that respect, such as that, they don't just talk about football, they pull in their life experiences and what's going on around them in terms of just the everyday facts?
No, Fergie is very much like that. He has a great enthusiasm for life itself, and he can talk about a vast range of subjects. But I think perhaps the difference is, and that's not to say that other managers can't, like if you're Pep or your Jose's, but that they don't necessarily volunteer it as much so readily. They tend to focus on football all of the time, whereas Arsene and certainly Sir Alex, they're always quite happy, time allowing, to converse about anything on a wide range of subjects. Again, I think it's a reflection of their people who they've got inquiring minds. They're fascinated by, they're both obsessed with football. It always comes back to football in the end, but anything that they think will give them an edge or another layer of knowledge which could help win a football match, then they're intrigued by.
And yourself, if we take it back to you now, how did you get involved in the reporting journalism side of things? I know you joined Sky in 1992, is that right?
Yeah, coming up for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've not really settled in yet.
You'll find your feet soon, Geoff.
I actually virtually fell into it by accident. It's a fairly well-known story, this. I was in property to start off with. Played football locally to no great standard whatsoever. Funnily enough, I did actually know a few of the Arsenal boys as well. I knew Alan Smith and Lee Dixon. I knew them because they all lived around here. And then a friend of mine, his brother got a job in, he was a kicker for the Atlanta Falcons. He was an English guy, a guy called Mick Luckhurst. And he, was a co-commentator for TNT and CNN at the World Cup in Italia 90, Gazza's World Cup. And before he went, his brother said to me, look, he's looking for somebody to help him, literally to carry his bags, be a spotter, a bit of a researcher. And although I'd never done it before, I thought I could probably turn my hand to it. I was mid-20s. So I thought, yeah, okay, I'll have a go at that. And I knew John Motson socially, so I went to see him, and John was fantastic. He was a real help to me, massive help. So I did that, and that was my first job in TV, and it was incredible, absolutely incredible. I really enjoyed it. I met Martin Tyler when I was there, and whilst I was there, I thought, I really like this. I really enjoy this. This is what I want to do. So I obviously worked as hard as I could, and I networked, came back, and Sky didn't have the Premier League at that time, but they were already broadcasting, and through a few contacts, I just got my foot in the door, and literally I was a fixer, and used to ring round. This is in the old days. Literally, we didn't have a rolling news channel. We'd have a sports bulletin at midday. I want to get at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I could ring round. You used to ring round the training grounds and say, so like Chelsea's training ground, you just ring the payphone. You do the same at Arsenal as well. Somebody answered the phone and said, who's that? So it's Wisey. I said, who's that? So it's Shreevesy from Sky. Hello, mate. How can I help? Just in the news round. Any injuries or anything in training? Say, well, Beaky or Andy Townsend. He's hurt his ankle today, but he should be all right. Okay, cheers, Dan. Thanks a lot. And that was our news gathering service. So it was very, very simple in those days. And then, of course, Sky were looking for people, and they were taking off. And I was just lucky. I was in the right place at the right time.
Can I ask, you said in your piece there that it was very easy, it was simplistic, you were saying, to phone around and get information such as injuries and updates and whatnot. Has that changed? Has the relationship between reporter and club changed? Has it become a bit more distant, or have you have you sort of got enough and long enough relationships with certain people within the club that you can still call them up, pick up the phone, and speak to them and get, whatever information or news or updates that you require?
Yes and no is the answer to that. On the one hand, yes, it is more difficult. There are more layers. There are more people surrounding players, media departments. Clubs have their own in-house media as well, and the competition for news and information is greater than it's ever been. But at the same time, as any reporter will tell you, what is the fundamental of any relationship is trust. And if the players and the managers trust you, they will give you information and they will help you. And they know that you're doing your job and you are a part of the game as much as a player or a referee or a kit man. And so there's it's not always a two-way street. In the main, we tend to go to them as opposed to the other way around. But it's changed, changed enormously. last night I was at Stamford Bridge and just in Cesc Fabregas standing there with a microphone, doing a two-way, headphones on, us guys, we couldn't be doing this, 20 years ago. And doing the interview down the line into the studio, no big deal at all. No, just quite an ordinary thing. And that would have been virtually unheard of when we first started to do something like that, what we call a two-way. So although some things have changed, I think the fundamentals, thankfully, have remained the same.
Geoff, I'm not going to ask you who the worst manager is to interview because you probably wouldn't say. Who's the toughest? Oh, okay, go on.
The losing manager.
So that's been Wenger recently then.
But again, with the winning and losing managers, don't forget you're getting people when they're at their rawest. Now, I don't know what you guys do or if you work, but you imagine whatever you do for a living, people want to pick apart what you do. And if you've got it wrong, they want to know why you've got it wrong. They want to know why you keep getting it wrong and why you should be paid for getting it wrong and how long do you expect to keep getting it wrong for. Now, there's not many people who will front up and be thrilled to see you. Although it is far more, again, it's part of the game now, very much part of the game. In the old days, if we got a post-match interview with Matt, it was by grace and favour. It really depended on the goodwill of the manager. And if he didn't want to talk to us, he didn't have to talk to us. You're off,
okay.
No.
So this Rick, is the thing with your video.
Yeah, Rick, cut that part
out. Dennis has fallen asleep.
Oh, Burkham. Oh, hello.
Yeah, sorry.
So, Geoff, is there anyone you particularly... I know you like Wenger, obviously, and that's great. But is there anyone particularly you don't? Or
No, honestly, going to say, they're all a challenge. They're all different, and you can't necessarily. You can have a good interview with one manager, and it won't. You could apply the same techniques or the same style, and it won't go down well at all. They're all individuals. They're all doing often a difficult job, and as long as you don't you never make it personal, and you respect them for that, and also don't forget as well, you've got to go back. Sometimes, because it's all very well standing there and thinking, oh, these are tough questions, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but you've got to see the guy again 3 or 4 weeks' time. So, it's never about you. It's about them and it's about the answers they give.
No, I get that. I understand, but it must be very tough if say someone's been relegated and you've got to interview the manager of the relegated team.
I did last night.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It must have been very tough.
Yeah, you have to, where you can, you have to try and sympathise with the person's position, and you don't get it right all the time for obvious reasons. And when you've done, when you're a reporter like me or similar guys in my position, both at Sky and Beeb or ITV, when you do as many interviews as we do, you're not going to get it right all the time. You are going to get things wrong. You are going to make mistakes. And sometimes you can, there's a fine line between good journalism and persistent questioning and being a pain in the arse. So, it's subjective as well.
Of course.
Some people will praise you to the hilt really strong interviewing. Other people say, well, I think you went after him there, and I think you're out of order. So it is subjective.
How do you take that criticism? Do you see it on social media, or is it amongst your peers? Where would you see or hear that?
Well, I'm on social media because you have to be. It's part of our job nowadays anyway. In the main, it's from my peers and the people I work with. It's their criticism that's the most important. Most of the time, you know yourself. You know, if you've got something wrong or it hasn't gone quite right, it can. You know yourself. But also as well, don't forget, it's without being blasé. Sometimes you have to say, look, it's live television. It happens. You can't be word perfect every single day. And if, and we do live in a society now that look for faults, look for things that go wrong. Sometimes you have to say, tell you what, I could have done that quite a lot better.
That's right. You're not a robot. You're human, aren't you?
Exactly.
Things happen.
Exactly.
Geoff, you're talking about interviewing styles and on the spot interviews and whether you get what kind of a response and reaction you get from your peers or people on social media. I want to take you back to Chelsea. They've just beaten Barcelona, I think.
Semi-final
of the European Cup or Champions League. You've got Branislav Ivanovic on a post-match interview, and you're asking him, does he realise that second yellow or that yellow card means he's ruled out for the Champions League final? Now, that caused quite a big stir on social media.
I don't remember this.
Well, you asked him a question. I think you was...
Believe the word he says.
That was too easy. Yeah, see, people ask me about that a lot. And the truth is, first of all, number one, I would never deliberately try and upset any player or dig somebody out like that. There were unique circumstances behind it, which were, on the night, I was what's called hardwired. So instead of being a radio, I had a cable, so I can't move from the spot. And great celebrations. It's all happening. JT's already been sent off early in the evening. So it's a fantastic turnaround. Brilliant night for Chelsea. And put him thrust in front of me. Petr Cech, Ashley Cole. Fine. We're going to go with him as our first reaction. But so it's live. Now, during the game, nobody was sure. We weren't sure. Our commentators weren't sure. Or we couldn't even get confirmation from the fourth official as to whether or not Branislav had been booked during the game. Now, I bet neither of you remember. Now, he was actually booked, but do you remember what he was actually booked for?
No.
Right. Okay. This gives you an idea.
Was it celebrating or something like that in front of the...
No. He was booked ungentlemanly conduct because when the Drog gave away the penalty, he went and scuffed up the penalty spot with the... So it wasn't obvious booking. Now, going into the game, we knew who were on yellows and would miss the final. So they literally, as he's thrust in, I haven't got a chance to say to him, were you booked or not? There's normally have a chat or something. Nothing. He's there. So we're going live. Now, I can't say, now if I go, fantastic, guys, brilliant. How much are the three of you looking forward to playing in Munich, the final, blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, I can't, you fool, because I got booked, didn't I? So it makes us look stupid. And I also not entirely sure whether or not he's been booked. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know if he's been booked or not. So, and at the time he didn't have a great command of English. So chat. And I've got to clear it out. I said, were you booked? And he said, yeah, I think so. Which was a little bit, which was more than vague. Then I said, were you actually booked then? And he said, yeah. I said, you do realise, and that's when I said, and it didn't seem to bother him. It was no reaction at all. And I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell whether or not he knew that meant he wasn't playing in the final, which of course would be devastating. We subsequently found out that Chelsea, Roberto Di Matteo, had decided pre-match, not because it was him and I think one or two others, not to tell the players who were on yellows that if they got carded, they'd miss the final. Now, you'd have thought the players would know it themselves, but
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I know. Anyway, that's how it came about. That's why it looked so bad. But I spoke to him about a week or so later, just to say, look, and he really did not enjoy the fuss. He didn't like it at all. And he's a nice guy, big, strong, silentish type. And we spoke on the phone. He said, look, it's no problem. It doesn't bother me at all. He said, I know you didn't mean it like that. Anyway, about, a year later, he scored the winning goal when they won the Europa League. Do you remember the header?
No, but go on. I don't watch Chelsea games much, but
yeah. I texted him straight away saying, fantastic, delighted for you. You'll now be remembered as scoring the winning goal in the European final and not for that so-and-so interview. And he actually, I think he was still in the dressing room when he replied, ha ha ha, and he laughed about it. So he's a good, in fact, he gets a title winners medal this year when they win it.
Yeah. I mean, what I liked about it, I mean, what I found interesting about it is that Lee Westwood actually tweeted something. So I was looking at the funny side of it. The response, the funny reactions about it. Lee Westwood said that, Geoff Shreeves has been on the phone telling me I've never won a major. And then there's other tweets saying that, you've gone around the Barcelona dressing room. Did you see the funny side of it at all? Or did you just think, people are, comparing me to Jeremy Kyle. I mean, people are stupid, blah, blah, blah. Or was you just sort of like, forget about it and moved on to the next show?
No, but a bit of both. A bit of both, really. You think about it, you take it on board. But in that situation, it was easy for me because I knew myself that I hadn't done it deliberately. There's been other times. I remember when I first started out as a reporter, there was a manager, and I won't say who, but Newcastle beat them by 6. And he had the decency to come out, and I really gave him a hard time, unnecessarily. And I didn't appreciate how difficult it was for him to have come out and done that interview and faced the cameras. So I felt a lot worse about that, than I did, the Ivanovic affair, because that was within my own control, and that was poorly executed by me. So that was my fault. So the Ivanovic one was what it was. Most importantly, the player himself accepted how it came across and why it came across. And that was it.
Okay, so Sky has changed the way we watch football unbelievably so completely. When I watched it in the 80s, I think we had Grandstand or Match of the Day or Once a Week or whatever it was. Sky comes in, I mean, even more so now, they analyse every single tackle, offside, controversy, everything. I mean, I personally love Carragher and Neville. I think it's brilliant, but they're my era as watching football. What do you think the downsides are of this? Because, referees are under extreme pressure. I watched the Carragher and Neville referee documentary they did a couple of weeks ago. I have to say my attitude towards referees and linesmen has completely changed. I find they're light. I couldn't do their job in a million years, and actually they struggle to do it as well. Do you think that all this analysis is great and good for the game, or do you think it's a bit too much?
Well, there's several parts to the answer to that. First of all, you say it changed your opinion of linesmen and referees.
Definitely.
System. Okay. Well, I could tell you that it changed Jamie and Gary's outlook, and it also changed the referee's outlook on Cara and Gary as well. So that's 3, real positives there, positives. And it was the communication thing. I personally think, don't forget, the laws of football were drawn up over 100 years ago, 150 years ago. So the game is a lot quicker. It's a lot faster. So to expect a human being to be able to keep up the same pace is ridiculous, the idea that they could do that. So I think they do help a huge amount. I mean, the goal line technology, massive help. It's factual, instantaneous, great admin. I'm all for technology used in the right way as long as it doesn't slow the game down. And also, I'm very wary of people saying, if you bring in technology, it will end all the mistakes. No, it won't. Because a lot of it is subjective. There was one in Australia recently that Fox was showing. Game was stopped for 4 minutes. Video assistant gave the goal, and he was wrong. You know, he looked at it, and sometimes we'll show tackles at half time. Is it a foul or isn't it? And we don't come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
People have to accept there isn't a 100% guarantee in decision making, but that's live sport, and you've got to accept that. You know, that is part of sport. Now, I know when it's an error that it could send a club down or the stakes could be very high, but you have to accept it. You have to accept it.
I don't think one referee's error sends a club down. It's over 35, 36 games, you know, and I just feel sometimes that goal line, I'm not a big lover of technology for the whole game because it's going to slow it down. I don't want it to become like American football. Goal line technology, yes, but as you said, it's subjective. Me and you could watch a penalty appeal and could disagree for hours on end, you know, and that is what goes on in the studio when you watch, you know, the analysts, the analysing going on. You often see Souness and Henry arguing about a decision, and that is the beauty of football, and fans have to accept that. I think it swings and roundabouts with refs. I don't personally think any referee comes on the field, looks at a team and goes, right, I don't like this lot. I don't think it works like that. I think they're as fair as they can be.
I can guarantee it doesn't. And
yeah,
you know, I'm at close quarters with the referee because I'm downstairs. The boys are up in the studio or on the gantry. They're all great lads. They're all really, really conscientious, and quite often at half time as they're walking past, they know if they've given a penalty or not. They'll just give you a look to say, "Did I get that right?" And you'll say, "Spot on," and they almost celebrate like they've scored a goal. They really, really care. They really, really care. The laziest criticism of referees: "Oh, he's made that mistake. He'll go to work on Monday and he won't be bothered." He won't. He will be bothered. They really do care, and you know, I think our referees are pretty good and pretty good people.
I think they're under unfair criticism as well. They get it from social media, they get it from fans, they get it from managers, they get it from, you know, Sky commentators, they get it everywhere. And I think you're right. I don't think that I've never used that.
Don't forget that goes with the territory. You know, nobody put a gun to their head.
Nobody but what I'm saying is, Geoff, in the 80s you didn't have this, did you? I didn't even know the referees' names. We know all the referees now. You know, we never had a fourth official for a start. It was very different.
You could also argue in the 80s you had a massive hooliganism problem. In the 80s, the racism was a lot worse. You can argue in the 80s the stadiums weren't safe. In the 80s, who knows what was going on at youth club level with unlicensed coaches as well. So I think, again, you have to be careful about being nostalgic and looking back.
I'm more talking about on the field decisions. I'm not talking about all of that because obviously all that, yeah, of course, everything is, you know, superseded now with all that. But what I'm trying to say is the actual football with the referees and this constant analysis of every single tackle, of every single yellow card, they are under extreme pressure, the refs. You know, they're not paid 150 grand like the players are they?
They're not far off.
What? Really?
Well, Mark Clattenburg won't be.
But it's a year, not a week.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm trying to say is
the refs earn a good living, and they are more than happy doing what they do. And also, don't forget, you know, they get for a good decision as well. They also get the praise as well.
Yeah, no. What I'm trying to say is, I feel that it. What I'm trying to say is I think there's unfair criticism on them all around everywhere. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's easy for them. It's harder for them now, I think. And you're right. The game is so much faster than it ever was. That's what it proved in the documentary, didn't it?
Yeah.
Carragher and Neville.
They were gassing, weren't they?
Were out of it all, and the referees were laughing at them. It was a brilliant documentary, actually. I loved watching that.
Jeff, do you think that referees should be interviewed after the game to explain certain decisions, or you think that should be that shouldn't happen in the future?
Well, we did it years ago. We did it years and years ago. We used to do it quite a lot. But the problem with it is is quite often the only time it makes for good television, the only time you want to hear them, is when you don't understand the decision they've made or when they've got it wrong. Because if you think of a really obvious, say, Gabrielle, wasn't it, on Sheringham? Gabrielle and Harry Kane. I'm going mad. Back in the 80s. Gabrielle and Harry Kane recently. It's a clear penalty. You show the referee comes out. You show it on the monitor. It's a clear penalty. He says, "Yeah, he's caught him on the shin there. It's a penalty." What does that do for anybody? The only time you want to hear from them is to explain a decision you don't understand. And most of the time, because they're talking to the fourth official as well, they'll tell us why they made a decision as well. I'm not sure that also, back to your point, Amanda, about too much scrutiny. When you have a referee in the studio, when you have a referee alongside you, sometimes that can make you go to that referee all the time. He's there, so you want to use him. So you analyse even more. Sometimes it's good, and I like it. Other times, I think let's state the obvious.
But again, even some refs, you have in the studio and then on the pitch, they disagree because it's subjective and it's an opinion as well. It's very hard. It's very hard.
Very much so.
Let's change tack a bit. I want to ask you, what's the difference between doing post-match interviews and your more sort of planned studio-based interviews? I mean, what are you trying to elicit from your subject in a post-match? Because for some reason, my cynical self thinks these reporters are trying to get a strap line, they're trying to get a sound bite that looks good on their newsreel, that goes viral and so on and so forth. Whereas a studio-based interview, it's more planned, you put more. What
do you mean a studio-based interview?
Like the one you did with Alexis Sanchez recently.
Yeah.
So that one's
that's at the training ground. That's at the training ground. That's a few days before.
Yeah. But we've only got a few minutes in a post-match or pre-match interview. You've only got a couple of minutes. You're in a mixed zone. You're trying to. Well, I'm not saying you're trying to, but it just seems like some reporters are trying to get that sound bite. I could be wrong, but I mean, what's the difference between that and how do you approach both?
You've got more in a sit-down interview in a pre-planned. You've got more time, so you can construct an interview accordingly. You normally have somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Post-match is normally 2, 3 maximum, absolute maximum. But the same rule applies in pretty much both areas. What are the questions we're asking? Why are we asking certain questions? And the answer is, we're supposed to ask the questions we think the majority of our viewers want asked. When we're stood there, me, Pat Davison, Greg Whelan, whatever the game we've watched, whether it's your team or not, you should be thinking, go and ask him so-and-so. Why did he do so-and-so? Why did that happen? Why didn't he do that? That's what we're supposed to do. It's not about us. It's not about headlines. It's not about, editorially it's correct, but at the end of the day, people that pay our wages are the viewers. So we're providing a service for them, and we've got to ask the questions, because it's no good. Say Sanchez gets sent off in a week, and he agrees to do an interview straight after the game, and you say, "Oh, that's terrible." The ref sent you off. That's really out of order, wasn't it? How's the dogs? How's Atom and Humber? How are they? Because it just doesn't work. You've got to say, what have you done? Why did you do that? Is that not irresponsible? You let your team down? So you should understand that the narrative is what the viewer wants to know at home.
Do you think there's recently, some people online, were talking about how maybe the style of interviewing or what maybe journalists or reporters are asking and should be have a bit more depth. Some guys are saying that, they'd like a reporter to ask more sort of analytical, data or stat-based, questions rather than how did you lost 3-2. How did you see the game? They say some people think that the style and the questions they ask are a bit basic. What do you say to those, to those people that think that the style of interviewing and the format of interviewing could be a bit more explorative?
Well, twofold. First of all, you never forget that the most important thing about a question is the answer. So it doesn't matter if you say to somebody, okay, you lost the game 3-2. The fact is that you employed a diamond to start with, but particularly during a 15-minute spell in the second half, they pushed their wing-backs on, and you weren't able to counter that. How much do you feel that played a part in this narrow defeat? Or you can say to him, how do you think that one got away from you? Now, whichever gives you the best answer is the best question. So the questions they're not irrelevant because it's a flow. It's a two-way thing. It's all about the reporter using their judgment as to what will elicit the best answer. Now that can be circumstance, can be personal relationship, can be history, can be all sorts of things. And it's like being a bowler. And I don't mean about getting people out and catching them out. I don't mean like that. But there's many different ways of getting what you want, slow ball, spin ball, fast ball, what have you. And it's your judgment as to what will get the best answer. So I go back to, I don't think people, I'm not aware that there is a huge demand for more explorative questions in terms of, it's a fairly, not straightforward, but it's not also as well. Don't forget, if you say to a manager, right, here's the stats, here's the heat map, here's this, here's that. He's not going to say, yeah, you're right, Geoff, look at that. Look at our left back. He's useless. I thought he's useless for ages. He's going to get binned. Look at him. He's done no run in this game. He's going to get binned. It's not going to happen. He's got to protect his interests and his players. Now, he might say it privately to them. They're not going to say that publicly.
Okay, so knowing what you've just said, when you said about what elicits the best answer, when you're just about to interview somebody, you must know the players pretty well over the years, yeah? So
some more than others.
Yeah, so you would know, wouldn't you, what tack to take if you knew you went straight in.
Not always, as has been proven regularly.
But I mean, generally, you're going to stand there in your head and go, right, I don't need to do all this spiel. I'm just going to go straight in. I know what answer I'm going to get. Are players natural with you? I know it's straight after a game and they're hyped up and whatever, the adrenaline's flowing. But are they natural with you? Or hours later, if you see them, do they go, oh, sorry, Geoff, I was a bit sharp or I wasn't with it? Or are they different? That's what I'm trying to say. No,
they're different. If you see them around the training ground and stuff like that, it's a more relaxed environment because they know they're live on TV in the other circumstances, and they are conscious of whatever they're saying. They don't want to be tripped up, or it's they're going to be misquoted. So they're generally more relaxed when they're not live. But a lot of them they're so used to doing it, they know it's part of it. For instance, last night, Ben Gibson, Middlesbrough captain, young lad, they've just been relegated 5 minutes after the game, came out, gave a very eloquent response, a very impressive response, said it was, worst day of his life. It's the worst thing that's happened in his life, not just in football. And he handled it no problem at all. So I think, they are used to, also as well, with social media, with people doing stuff all the time as well, people are far more confident and happy on camera. You still occasionally get some people who don't like doing television, who don't like being on camera. It spooks them for whatever reason. But you accept that because if it's someone who's naturally shy, we're not going to bully them. We're not going to make them do something they don't want to do. If someone's just doing it because to be difficult, then we will have a conversation. But if someone genuinely is uncomfortable, then you try and do the minimum with them. They're just people like us.
Other managers apart from Wenger, I love to watch. I think Klopp is hilarious. I think he's got a way with him that I just love watching. What's he like to interview?
Very, very good for two reasons. One, he obviously knows a great deal about football. He's an experienced manager and he was a player himself as well. But secondly, he was a TV pundit for a long time in Germany. He knows the game. So he knows the game exceedingly well. He knows exactly what he's doing, exactly what he's saying. Very good. Very good indeed. But most of them are good.
Do you the influx of foreign managers and foreign coaches into the English game, has that sort of enriched the reporters like such as yourself? Has it enriched your job in terms of what you're learning from them, how you approach them, how you see the game and stuff, or things around the game?
Giles, anything that is different, you've got to welcome. You've got to take it. And there are things that are different, the way they are, how they're used to the media, what they're used to as well. For instance, when you were talking about the questions, in Italy, they are far more used to a much more tactical interview, pre and post match. Far more than I would say most of our managers would find acceptable in this country. They're used to a very different style. But no, absolutely, they've enriched the Premier League. All the different foreign managers we've had have all had a different story, and they've all brought something. They've all added something to the party.
Who would you say your best interviewers, like managers and players down the years? Who's really, you thought, yeah, that was a great interview. That was brilliant. I'd really like to interview again, or I miss interviewing him.
It's not so much the managers or the players as such. It's the situation. When it's live, when it's a Champions League final, or a team have just won the title, or it's a big news story that's something that's happening live. You tend to at the time. It's very, very rare you come away from either an interview or a broadcast and you say, "Yeah, we absolutely nailed that. We were brilliant." Because there'll have been something wrong somewhere, bit of VT, somebody have messed up, or whatever. It's very rare that it's perfect. But there are occasions where you've nailed it. You've nailed the story, and you can come away and think, "Yep, we had a pretty good day at the office." But equally, you don't get too high about it, because the next week, you can fall over on your face very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Magnanimous in each way.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Well, but
couldn't do your job.
Let's get this right. You can't really call it a job. Watching football, going to football. So let's not pretend. I know how lucky I am. I know I've had a great time. And it's so far. I'm not looking to pack up. It's been absolutely brilliant. Highs and lows, but compared to other people's highs and lows, I'm not looking to swap.
Geoff, we haven't actually asked you who you support.
Yeah.
No, you haven't.
Will we get an answer?
I was far too busy growing up I was let down by the scouting system, unfortunately. I was hoping to have a top flight career, but unfortunately they saw that I was fat and slow, so that was the end of that.
Yeah, but you still haven't told us who you support. Come on, Geoff.
No. A team called Sandridge Rovers.
Oh.
So we're not going to get it out of you, are we, basically?
Is that on FIFA 13?
Speaking of FIFA,
where you live, if you're brought up in the area I think you've been brought up in, it's got to be something like Tottenham or Arsenal or Chelsea Boss.
None of those are my local team.
No, not local.
They're not.
You're determined not to. So you didn't have a Division 1 team growing up?
What are you trying to say? I'm old?
You're probably as old as me.
Speaking of FIFA, Geoff, how did you feel when they announced that you would be on? Is it FIFA 13 or FIFA 16 or whichever? Your voice is, you got your voice on there on the game or something like that. How did you feel? I mean, did you feel? Yeah,
I felt better when the check cleared.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
No, it was good laugh. It's good fun, and I'd be wealthy if I had £1 for every time somebody said to me, "Cheers, Geoff." I'd be a lot wealthier. But no, it was good. And obviously doing it with Martin Tyler and Alan Smith as well, and Andy Gray, originally as well. Good fun. Very good fun. Although it does drive you mad if my son's playing, you walk past you, people I work with will be surprised at this, but you can get fed up with the sound of your own voice. You can drive yourself mad.
What's it like on the road trip? like, you start off in Southeast England, you might be going on I assume you guys, the film crew, the other, presenters and whatnot, everyone kind of goes together, I imagine, or most of you go together. What's the road trip like?
It varies. I travel a lot on my own in midweek, up and down to Liverpool, Manchester, in and around London. And then it depends on where the game is, depends where I'm travelling from. Sometimes you go the night before, sometimes you stay the night of. I'll do Champions League for Fox as well as I do Sky. You get to know all sorts of people and you stay, I try and stay in the same hotels where possible as well, but no, it's good fun. It's good. It's a great laugh because you'll meet up the day before. What you instead of, a sit down editorial meeting, you'll meet in the bar, and you talk about it, because we're all football fans. We're all football fans. We all like football. We all like players. We all like talking about football, hearing about football. And so you're constantly working. And when you're driving as well, when you're driving up and down the country, you spend an enormous amount of time on the phone talking to colleagues about stuff, just little ideas for features. Did you get something right? Did you get something wrong? That sort of stuff. So we're on it all the time.
What's been the highlight of all? You started about 92, didn't you? I think, yeah.
90 I started, really.
90. Okay, so what's been the highlight for you, if you can pick out one?
Well, one moment.
Yeah, maybe just one interview that went viral over the years that's a standout one for you. Obviously you got the Ivanovic thing that obviously you're quite well known for.
Yeah, funny enough, I wouldn't put that down as my standout.
The opposite to Ivanovic, then.
There's been so many. It's the other stuff. It's the other stuff as well, and the opportunities that it brought. Going to interview Kevin Costner, flying with Mick Jagger in his private jet, interviewing Mike Tyson, Claudia Schiffer, all that sort of stuff as well. Robbie Williams and Gary Barlow, when they hadn't spoken for a long time, did those two together. I think one of my favourite, for all sorts of different reasons, probably for nostalgia more than anything else, was when I interviewed Michael Caine ahead of the game in '98 when Glenn was in charge and we had to go out to Italy anyway. So I had this idea to sort of coin the game, the Italian job.
Yeah.
So I dropped a line to Michael Caine's agents to see whether he would do a quick interview about football. And the very next day, I'm walking down Oxford Street and the mobile rang and the voice says, "Hello, is that Geoff?" He said, "This is Michael Caine." And I won't say what I did say, but it was along the lines of, "Go forth and multiply, Keysy." Because Richard Keys was an incredible mimic, a fantastic mimic.
Yeah.
He said, this is Michael Caine. I said, "Keysy, for a start, he wouldn't have replied that quickly. And secondly, he wouldn't have phoned himself." And this voice said, "Now, I got your fax yesterday." I said, "That's Michael Caine, isn't it?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Do you know the Canteen restaurant in Chelsea Harbour?" I said, "Do. Of course I do. You own it. I know exactly where it is." He said, "Can you be there tomorrow at 1:00? I said, "Yep, I can. I'll be there with a camera crew." He said, "I'll be wearing a suede jacket." I said, "Well, I know what you look like." So anyway, when I did this interview with him, and he was absolutely charm personified. He was wonderful. And then he said, "Anything else?" I said, "Will you do me a promo?" He said, "What's a promo?" I said, "Just look down the barrel of the camera. You say, 'Listen, Glenn, I tried to pull off the Italian job, but didn't quite make it. Good luck to you and the boys." So he did it. He said, "How's that?" I said, "Just do it one more time. I'll really give it." I went, "Am I telling Sir Michael Caine how to act?" He said, "You are, son, but it's enthusiasm and I like it." And he was just absolutely wonderful. Wonderful.
It's great, isn't it? The way football gets, it doesn't matter if you're a superstar or not. You have that passion.
That's the thing I found over the years. I remember in the 90s, I was at home and I think it was 93 and I was in the living room. Mrs. comes, she said, it was late at night and she said, "There's some bloke on the phone for you." I said, "Who is it?" I think his name's Joe Elliott. I said, I've never heard of him. Ask him what he wants. She said, he's the lead singer in a band called Def Leppard, and he wants to know if you can put on a feed of the All Sheffield Wednesday semi-final.
I love that. That's what I love.
It was Joe Elliott. It was mad. So it's been, I know I've been a really, really lucky boy. Really, really lucky boy. I've had a fantastic time. People also as well, people always say to me, oh, what a footballer's like, what they actually like, what they really like. And I always give the same answer. They're exactly the same as society. 80% just normal. It's normal people. Normal people. 15% are the most amazing people. Great company. Hugely generous. Really enjoyable. Supremely talented. You just want to be around. And 5% are maybe not the best. But unfortunately, the publicity the 5% attracts is far greater than the other 95. You know, football people are so warm. Whenever there's if there's a problem, if somebody's ill, if there's, at various times, I was unwell about 18 months ago, and the world of football couldn't have been more caring, more concerned. The amount of messages and genuine offers of help you get, it's really, really heartening. You know, fabulous industry to work in.
Also, I know of a lot of footballers that do a lot of charity work that goes, privately. They do not advertise that fact, and that doesn't get put out there. You just get these stories that the red top media want to promote. That they're
well, I can tell you that's there's one around somewhere. About 22 years ago, I got asked to help out at a charity dinner. It was the world of football meets the world of music in aid of Nordhoff Robbins. And, let's, bring a few footballers along, get a few auction prizes, normal sort of format. Now this thing has now taken on a life of its own, and we've received the award. We have a merit award at the end of the evening. We've had them all. Fergie, Cantona, Mourinho, when he was manager at Madrid, got him to fly over in the Madrid plane, came over for the night. Beckham 2 years ago, with the Premier League, the best goal scorer. And we had a fantastic night last year. It was the top. There are 25 players that have scored 100 plus in the Premier League. We got them to vote for their best first, second, and third. And the winner was Robin van Persie. Flew over from Turkey for the night, accepted his award, donated 20 grand on the spot to the charity. And we've now, from just this one dinner alone, Ryan Giggs, another recipient as well, from this one dinner alone, we've now raised in excess of 7 million.
Wow.
And I do that every year. This year we're honouring Stevie G.
Wow.
Oh, he's my favourite player from another football club, Stevie G.
Oh, there's lots of really, really great guys from all around the football clubs, all around. I'm lucky. I've had so many laughs and so many good times with so many of them as well. And, when we said to them, we accept the award, yeah, of course I will. And what can I do to help?
Okay, so if there was one person in this world you've never interviewed and you'd love to, who would it be? It doesn't have to be a footballer.
Have they got to be alive?
No, they don't have to be alive.
Probably Ali in his pomp. Ali in his pomp, I would say. At the peak of his powers. Yeah, it'd probably be a sportsman. So yeah, I'll go for Ali.
Okay.
Geoff, I want to bring it back round to Arsenal before we wrap things up. You recently interviewed Alexis Sanchez. Can you tell us, did he say whether he's staying or going?
Can I tell you?
Yeah. What's your feeling? I
can tell you.
Go on.
I won't.
What's he like to interview? I mean, we get the impression that he rarely does interviews. Even in his home country, he rarely does interviews. What is he like?
Fine.
Yeah.
English
is good?
he understands, but he's not confident enough to speak in English as yet. You can have a conversation off camera. He can speak in English, same as Mesut Ozil, but not quite confident, which is fair enough. You don't want to make yourself look daft. I mean, I've got a connection with Alexis because we've got the same dog, haven't we?
Yeah.
So,
is it Atom or Humber? Or is Dennis?
He's got golden retrievers as well. No, most of them are fine. And also as well, gone are the days where say, "Oh, you can't ask me about that." Well, no, we can. It's up to you how you phrase it and how you choose to answer it. But we will ask you. So of course I'm going to ask him: is he staying or going? Or I don't think.
I've just got one more thing to ask you. You mentioned one of my players that I adore, Ozil. What's he like to interview?
Again, okay. I get the feeling he doesn't particularly enjoy the razzmatazz, the celebrity lifestyle that comes with it. I get that feeling. I mean, he did a fantastic charity in Brazil, the orphanages in Brazil. Yeah, absolutely sensational. And also, if you're him, you're a World Cup winner. And I asked him the question. I said, "Do you understand why? Because of your body language, your very languid style, people think you're not trying." And he said, "Yeah, I understand it." He said, "But to think that I would go on a pitch and not try my hardest," he said, "it's just ridiculous." And he couldn't understand why somebody would think that. Actually, just reminding one of my favourite interviews was when I went to do bird camp in Amsterdam, and he rarely does stuff. Now he was when he was at Arsenal, he was a great lad, always good in, very dry sense of humour. He was a great lad, and I went to see him. I mean, it was when he released his book, Stillness and Speed.
Yep, got that. Yep.
Yeah, I've got that over there.
And I said to him, right, the famous goal at Newcastle. Do you understand why people asked you whether you meant it or not, or whether or not it was lucky? He said, "Well, first of all, I would admit it was lucky." I said, "Really?" I think, debunked one of the great goals of all time. I said, "What, you admit it was lucky?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Because two factors." He said, "First of all, he said, I showed for the ball. He said, I wanted the ball on my right foot." He said, he put in a bad pass. He said, so as soon as he sent it, I know I've got to go on my left foot. Right? He said, so that made up what my moment. He said, secondly, he said, it was dab his ass. He said, it was touch tight behind me. He said, I didn't know exactly where he was. He said, it wasn't touch tight, if he was right behind me. He said, if he dropped off a yard, he'd just taken the ball and I would look foolish. I said, so aside from that, he said, well, of course I meant the rest, of course. And he looked at me as though I was mad. And it was just, he was a one-off. He was a one-off.
Indeed.
He said he learned, like a lot of players, he learned kicking the ball against the wall. I said, "What? So you can anticipate, your touch?" He said, no, nothing to do with touch. He said, "You learn about trajectory and the ball, the patterns." He said, "In football, it's not that difficult to react to a situation." He said, "But a lot of football is basic trigonometry, and you can predict patterns." By this time, I've no idea what's going on. He lost me completely. No, he may well have been taking a mickey as well, because he had that in his locker.
Finally, interviewing someone like Arsene Wenger, you said he's very worldly and whatnot. Do you see him carrying on for much longer?
Do I see it?
Do you see him carrying on for much longer, or do you think he'll?
He hasn't answered the question about Alexis yet. Do you see how he spun that and got around that?
Yeah, he said he can.
For a start on Alexis, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I genuinely don't know.
No.
Wenger, I think he will carry on. But I think it's an unhealthy situation at the club. I think there are three factors. You've got an absentee owner who's never here, who, when the Arsenal fans make their feelings known, you have no idea whether or not he's aware of it whatsoever. No idea. Then you've got a board, because Arsene Wenger said today he doesn't know what a director of football is. He doesn't know what it is. Now, I think there's a little bit of license in the lane. What he means is, I don't know how that would work. Of course, he knows what a director of football is.
Yeah.
But it's an ideal time to change something. I'm not advocating that they should get rid of him, because they need a succession plan. They've got to. There's so much in place that Arsene Wenger put all of these structures in place. So when he goes, it's not just a vacancy in that particular seat. Then if these other areas are antiquated and nowhere near fit for purpose, or up to date, or as competitive as they once were, it makes the job an awful lot bigger. But it would seem there is resistance from him to change anything. He wants absolute control, which I personally think is not a healthy situation for any football club. Never mind Arsenal. I just don't think it's healthy.
So, Geoff, when he says that he can reinvent himself, you say he doesn't lie when he says it. How are we to take that? He says he can reinvent himself. He wants to go to the next level, but yet still he doesn't want to work for a director of football. Would he work alongside a director of football? His best period was with David Dean, wasn't it? That was.
I would ask him the question. What does that mean? And there's been a pattern for some time now of Arsenal slowly not being competitive for the Premier League title itself. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do that's different? Because as Einstein said, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But you've got to be very careful in that, this is somebody who has absolutely changed a club from top to bottom. Be careful what you wish for. He's an icon of football. But the sad thing is, I can't see at the moment. I can't see how he can leave with the total support of all of the fans. That's gone, I'm afraid. I just can't see it. Can you?
No. I wanted him to go when we beat Hull in the cup final, and go with dignity and respect that he deserves. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's getting so toxic. You're right. With our owner, there's no football people on the board. They've lost touch with us. And we feel that Wenger has this, I'll do what I want and I'll let you know when I want. It's May. He told us he'd let us know March, April. Who's in charge here? I think we know who's in charge. But if I said to my employer, I'll let you know when I'm ready, I'd be out the door. So I just feel there's a little lack of respect for us, and we don't trust us, Geoff. Wherever you see banners and airplanes and everything, none of them want him to leave in a disrespectful way. We all love what he's done for us. We all respect everything that he's done for us. He has changed us as a phenomenal club. The doubles, the invincibles, the players he's brought in. But there's been a lot of failure, and a lot of the last, I would probably say 5 to 6 years. I know people are saying 8 and 9 years, but I think we had the stadium move and everything. I feel, as I said to you 18 months ago, I don't want him to leave like this, and it's getting worse. How can he, when I feel he's already signed, and I feel the club are waiting. What they're waiting for, I don't know. There's never going to be a right time.
Someone said they're waiting for a good time to announce it to the Arsenal fans when they're full of hope. And so somebody else said that would be between the end of Abide With Me and the kick-off for the cup final.
Exactly. We all love Abide With Me. And I was thinking that it's going to probably be pre-cup final, I'm assuming. But I feel like our club's a shambles at the moment, and it's such a shame because we're an old-fashioned English football club, aren't we? We had, the old traditions, and they're slowly going. And I don't want him to leave as much as I want him not to extend. I don't want him to leave like this.
All right, let me have the last question then.
Go on. Oh, you're going to interview us?
If he won the league next year, would you want him to stay? There you go.
Go on, Amanda.
It's really tough, Geoff, because but we could have another manager that comes in. Look at Conte, Yeah, and all right, so you're talking about the Man United situation because we often get told this, but then I look at the Chelsea situation. Be careful what you wish for with Conte. What a fantastic manager! Can't respect him enough. If he wins the FA Cup, I hope he tells.
It's a straightforward question.
Okay, I'll
if he
answer.
wins the Premier League next season, why would you want him to leave?
The thing is, for me, Geoff, so much would have to, for me, I mean, I'm an amateur, I don't know anything about what goes on in a football club, so much would have to change.
Hang on, what do you mean you're an amateur? I'm not a chef, but I know what a good steak is.
I don't.
Love your analogy.
So much would have to change within the club, i.e. support network around him, playing staff, tactics, game plans and whatnot. If that happened and he won the league, he won't win the league with the present guys. He will not win the league. He won't. With what he's doing now.
Question. Hang on. You accused me of being a tricky interviewer.
I'm learning from the best thing, Geoff.
If he won the league, I'm asking you, why would you want him to leave? If he won the league next season?
If he won it, then that's a different question. But there's so much that'd have to go on before he could win it for me to even answer that question.
Geoff, you can't ask that question. You can't ask that question because there is nothing in what Giles is saying. Everything would have to change. Everything. And it's not going to. I put this to you, Geoff. No, we're not going to win the league under Arsene Wenger. So if you're asking me if he wins the FA Cup, would I want him to stay? No. I'd love him to leave at 8:00 that night. Oh, my God, that would be the best thing. At least he would leave on a high. I can't see us beating Chelsea, which I'm sure the whole country can't, but we'll never know. But what I'm saying is, I just wanted him to leave with a lovely, how can I put this? With a lovely send-off, and he's not going to get it, Geoff.
That's not a funeral. Lovely send.
No, but hold on a second. Yeah, but Geoff, it is you got to understand that my dad's been going, I don't know, 50 odd years, okay? He has legitimately wanted Arsene Wenger to leave about 6 or 7 years. So when I know what you're saying, it's not a send-off, but we want him to have a send-off, okay? I do, and I'm sure Giles does. We want him to have that respect, dignity. Look what you've done for us, Arsene Wenger. You are welcome here for life. If he extends next year, trust me, that's not going to happen. It's going to get far worse.
Okay.
What are your Sky sources telling you, Geoff? Your famed Sky sources, what are they telling you?
50-50 at the moment. I think he'll stay.
I do as well.
I think he'll stay.
Yeah. He's very bullish. He's been very bullish about,
No, I think he'll stay.
We'll just have to see how that one pans out. Geoff, I want to wrap it up at this point. Geoff, I have to say, you do look like a young Alex Ferguson certain times. The way the light kind of hits you.
He's 50 years older than me.
I said a young Alex Ferguson.
50 years older than you. He's gonna I wish he'd listen to this.
He never listened to anybody.
No, he doesn't. He's a Lawrence himself, that one, isn't he?
Geoff, I want to thank you for coming on this evening and sharing your thoughts.
Welcome, guys. Welcome.
It's been
good fun talking to you both.
It's been
brilliant, Geoff. Thank you.
Before we let you go, Geoff, predictions for the cup final. Who do you think is going to prevail?
I think Chelsea got too much for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I think they'll win it, but I think they've got too much for them.
Do you think it'll be a close game? Do you think it'll be a close kind of game, or do you think it'll be a bit of a 2 or 3 goal trouncing or margin, should I say?
No, I'd never go that far. I wouldn't say they're trouncing. I just think Chelsea are a really, really good football team, a really good team. And I still think there's a fragility about Arsenal, which we saw at White Hart Lane recently. They threw at the back, etc. I think Chelsea got too much for them. I think Chelsea will win it.
Oh yeah.
So even though it's 50-50, you think Chelsea got too much. Okay. So
yeah.
For Arsenal to win, how do you see it? I mean, what do you think would have to happen?
Listen, of course Arsenal can win. They've got good players. You talk about Ozil, he can produce a bit of magic. So can Sanchez as well. Listen, I've seen it so many times in football, so many results, so many games where the unfancied team wins. So of course they can happen. If I was going to have a bet, which I won't be, I'd back Chelsea. I just think man for man, they're a better team.
Yeah.
They're a better organised team. They're a better drilled team.
And they seem to rise to the occasion a lot more than
Hmm.
we have of recent times. Jeff, finally.
Okay, guys.
Yep. I would love to say once again, thanks for coming on, Jeff. It's been a real pleasure.
Brilliant.
Real
Pleasure. My absolute pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you both soon somewhere.
And you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Okay, no worries. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Geoff.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
This podcast is sponsored by the Tollington Arms on Hornsey Road, a bubbly pub with a Thai kitchen home to thousands of Arsenal fans every season. Open daily from noon.